What if I told you the world's absolute richest people are out there earning millions of dollars while they're literally fast asleep? It's true. They don't just clock in more hours than the rest of us. Instead, they've built these incredible automated systems that generate immense wealth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, how exactly do billionaires pull this off? Well, let's dive right in and find out.
We so often fall for this myth that extreme wealth just comes from logging thousands of extra hours at the office. Grind, 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 right? But honestly, that's completely backwards. Let's break down how billionaires actually make their money while their eyes are closed.
The whole thing really just boils down to one single word, and that word is ownership. Think about it. Employees trade their limited time for a single salary, and the catch? If they stop working, the money stops dead. But billionaires? They play a totally different game. They own assets that keep churning out continuous income, whether they're awake, on vacation, or sound asleep.
See, while most of us are relying on one single paycheck, these folks are building wealth through dozens of passive streams, all operating simultaneously right in the background. We are talking about things like dividend-paying stocks, rental real estate, digital products, patents, royalties, and owning private companies. Basically, they're building an army of assets that literally never clock out.
Okay, moving into Section 1, the power of compounding. This is really the engine of wealth.
So, the true secret weapon of the ultra-wealthy here is compounding. It's like mathematical magic. Take Benjamin Franklin's fascinating 200-year economic experiment. When he passed away back in 1790, he left 1,000 pounds to the city of Boston. But he mandated that it had to be lent out and left to compound for a whole century. Then they could spend just a little bit of it and let the rest grow for another entire century.
And wow, when Boston's fund finally matured in 1990, that patient capital had seriously done its work. That initial, relatively small gift of 1,000 pounds, it had absolutely exploded into $4.5 million. To put that into perspective, it shows how even small gains, just relentlessly reinvested over time, transform into an absolute fortune.
Up next is Section 2, Scaling Wealth with Technology and the Magic of Zero Marginal Cost.
Now, the good news is you don't have to wait 200 years today. Technology acts as this unprecedented wealth multiplier. Get this, 9 out of the top 10 U.S. fortunes come from tech founders who leverage zero marginal cost software. Through automation and global networks, they can serve literally billions of users instantly, all without having to hire millions of employees. It's wildly efficient. That brings us to Section 3, the Wealth Fortress, focusing on private equity and family offices.
So how do they manage these massive compounding digital fortunes? Well, the ultra-wealthy use dedicated family offices and private equity structures. They typically use this standard 2 and 20 model. Once a certain performance hurdle is cleared, 80% of the profits go straight to the limited partners, the investors. Then the remaining 20% goes to the general partners, the fund managers, as what's called carried interest. This brilliant setup aligns the manager's wealth directly with the billionaire's growth, heavily rewarding huge long-term success.
Now, for Section 4, the buy, borrow, die strategy. This is the ultimate tax loophole.
Listen, making money is only half the equation, right? Preserving it is a whole different beast. The wealthy use elite tax avoidance tactics developed over decades, like this famous 3-step framework outlined by law professor Ed McCaffrey. Step 1, buy appreciating assets. Simple enough. Step 2, instead of selling those assets and paying hefty taxes, you just borrow completely tax-free cash against them to fund your lifestyle. And Step 3, die and pass those assets to your heirs with a step up in basis. That literally wipes out the capital gains tax entirely. It's wild, but that is exactly how it works.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, assets that never sleep. Here's the blueprint for you.
Bringing these elite strategies back down to earth for a second, let's look at Warren Buffett's philosophy. He's not out there making a million trades a day. He actually makes just a few solid decisions a year using specific passive assets. He buys dividend-paying stocks, relentlessly reinvests all his earnings, owns cash-generating businesses, and holds safe fixed income assets for when the market drops. He just lets that capital appreciate long-term. It creates this absolute fortress of cash flow that requires basically zero daily management.
Ultimately, the big lesson here isn't that billionaires never work. Obviously, they do. The point is that they eventually build assets that do the heavy lifting for them. I want to leave you with this really provocative quote from Buffett himself. He said, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die."
So the real question isn't how hard you're working today. The question is, what are you building right now that will keep working long after you stop?